I just gotten drugged and robbed. I'm not a morning person. I like to go to bed at 2 a.m. and wake up at 11. Legitimate, a degenerate crackhead addict, right? And your mind is going to change just like your body changes. The most massive monumental changes in my life. I did $78K in my first 3 months off that $7,500 investment. They're like, oh, I'm 30, it's too late to start. It's like, guys, I started at 31 and I promise you today I'm 37. At 31 is when I actually changed my life. Who am I hanging out with? Where am I going? What am I doing? Improvement is a day-by-day process, is when your life will start to improve. And stop thinking about the outcome or why am I not worth this or why am I not worth that. I had to stop hanging out with my friends that were going out all the time. I had to stop going to the club. When you stop priming or working out your mind on a daily basis, you will lose that muscle. I really felt the presence of God. Cut those things out from my life, which was lonely and painful at first.
Welcome back, everyone, to episode 2 of the Parker J. Smith Show, of course, featuring my co-host, John Melillo, and our special guest today, Wade Houston. Wade shares his story, his entire life journey, getting into social media and personal branding at the age of 30 years old, scaling and starting multiple massive companies, talking $50 million a year, plus acting as a sales agent, a sales manager, and then ultimately branching off to start his own company, his own programs called the 1% Protocols here. Wade shares his entire story, hitting rock bottom in Miami, getting robbed and waking up on the side of the road and basically turning his entire life around from that moment. So a lot of nuggets here, a lot of value on your personal development, health, fitness, mindset, and everything else in between. Make sure you stay tuned. This is going to be a great episode. I honestly don't need to give him too much foreshadowing here. I think I'd rather just hear it right from the horse's mouth for this one. He showed up today in typical Wade Houston fashion, right on time, sweat towel hanging around his neck, fresh from the gym, right into the studio, quick change.
Mentioned the voicemail.
Yeah. Oh, we're driving over here and I'm just calling to confirm that Wade's going to be here. And, you know, we're all good because I hadn't had a touch point with him this morning, and I call him and it goes to voicemail, and I'm sitting there and I get, "You've reached Wade Houston's voicemail. I do not listen to voicemails, so text me if you need me." And I was like, all right, there we go. And he texted me back, sure enough, 5 minutes later, and was here right on time. But Wade, I think before I let you introduce yourself, I want to even give some further context to any of the listeners or watchers here today. I actually met Wade just like in the shallows of the beach at Key Biscayne. I'm there with my wife, with a couple of her friends, and I hear from maybe 50 steps down the beach, I hear a voice, a really familiar voice. And I never met Wade at this point, but had seen enough of his content to know very distinguishable voice. And I'm hearing him talk, and finally I'm like, I gotta go see if that's Wade. And I walk up close enough and I'm like, "Hey, are you Wade Houston?" And he's like, "Yeah." And we chat for maybe 10, 15 seconds. And the only thing that he says is, "Hey bro, DM me on Instagram. Let's go grab a workout together. Let me know when you're available. We'll get a lift in." And I think that perfectly sums up Wade and, you know, his priorities and what it is that he's doing. So without further ado, Wade, I'd love for you to just introduce yourself, tell the audience a little bit about who you are, what you do, and then I've got some questions for you. And I want to just dig right into your story because you've got an awesome one and a lot of value to share with the viewers today.
We did meet in the shallows.
Yes,
That's exactly what it was.
Yes, it was.
And it was so awesome too because you know, when you asked who I was, I get this a lot since getting on Instagram, and it's not too often that people come up to me with a whole bunch of value as well, with like really awesome pointed questions and value. And it was so refreshing to be sitting there, you know, just with a girl on my lap, enjoying myself. And you're like, "Hey, are you Wade?" I'm like, "Yeah, man, what do you do?" And you just so quickly delivered what you do, what your interests are, that we should link sometime. And I was like, absolutely, bro. I absolutely love this kid's viewpoint and mindset. And it was just very random and refreshing.
Yeah,
so
it was
pumped to be here.
I'm always ready with my elevator pitch for a moment like that. So yeah, no, it was really, interestingly enough, I mean, John and I like send your videos back and forth, and you know, some of the stuff that you post is like, it's so spot on and it's so value. And then some of the stuff that you post, and we obviously know, is like just to get views, just to get people to like, click, react, share. So, you know, we see some of the videos, and you were like, namely one of the ones that just sticks out in my head so clearly is you're talking about, how you just really are trying to be efficient with your time, and like the little mundane tasks where, you know, you're just like, I just don't do that. something, for example, like returning clothes to Amazon. And there's this clip, and I'm sure you know the one that I'm talking about already. You're there, you're like, what do you think I'm gonna do? The shirt doesn't fit. I don't want it. I'm gonna repackage it up. I'm gonna take it back to the post office. I'm gonna wait in line. I'm gonna do this. You're like, kill myself. And we just were dying watching that video. But honestly, even just the brief bit that we've known each other now, like, it's funny because that is your personality. It's almost like the exaggeration of like who you are. Like, you are very like, I'm to the point, I'm no nonsense, I live by my calendar, all that stuff. And I feel like a lot of that probably is rooted in what principles really brought you to where you are.
Yes.
And I love that your companies and your offers and what it is that you do is all based around this idea of 1%, because you're basically just building a foundation of like, I'm willing to go where others won't. And that's why I will get where others won't. And I love that. I want to hear more from you directly about your story. And, you know, there's some crazy moments from, you know, my time following you that you've shared, and I don't want to lead you into them too much. I'd love to just hear from you, you know, what got you started in this, making content and building a personal brand, selling offers, working with people, fitness coaching, business coaching, all this stuff.
Yeah, totally. And you're spot on. A lot of the way that I operate my life today, with discipline, with routine, with a desire for improvement, comes from a point of desperation where I had to say, hey, I'm not operating optimally at all. I'm not a morning person. I like to go to bed at 2 a.m. and wake up at 11. I like to order a bunch of coffees and French toast to start my morning. I would prefer to smoke cigarettes all day and do pain pills. Like, I want to do as little work as possible, and I have no structure and no routine, and I am legitimate, a degenerate crackhead addict. That is my foundation in life, right? And I reached a point where I just said, I don't know what I should be doing with my life to live optimally. I'm relying off of all my God-given talent and ability, and I'm wasting most of it without any sort of method for daily improvement, right? And a lot of people are like, oh, I graduated college and this is the skill set that I have. I finished sports and this is the body that I have. And they just stop improving in life. And it's like the point in which you realize that improvement is a day-by-day process is when your life will start to improve, and stop thinking about the outcome or why am I not worth this or why am I not worth that. Just focus on day-by-day improvement. And so I created this structure, right? I got to this point in my life, May 6th of 2019, where I said, I just gotten drugged and robbed. Okay, I'd been out at a club in Miami. I just got drugged and robbed. And I woke up on my back and I said to myself, wow, I got to make some changes. And I had this, for the first time in my life, I really felt the presence of God saying, hey man, you're wasting everything that I've given you based on your selfish means. And it was like, man, I just got to seek help. I need to make some changes in my life. And to give you some context, prior to that, I had been kicked out of prep school, kicked out of college, 3 DUIs, 3 assault charges, was being followed by the feds when I was selling Oxycontin. I overdosed on Oxycontin. I was doing 580s a day, which is like a $600 a day habit, absurd amount, taking laxatives every day just to go to the bathroom. Living this insane life, you know, for so many years. At 24, I mostly stopped drinking and stopped doing the pain pills, but I just continued on for a long time doing all the party drugs, you know, and every day weed, Xanax, and then a lot of Molly and ketamine, and I would come down to Miami and party. And I lived a very clouded life, right? And I did that until 31 years old, which is crazy. A lot of people are like, 31, they're like, oh, I'm 30, it's too late to start. Yeah. It's like, guys, I started at 31 and I promise you today I'm 37. Like, you can have a meteoric rise in that time. And at 31 is when I actually changed my life, right? Is when I said, hey, I'm going to take an audit of my life. So the first thing I did was like, hey, who am I hanging out with? Where am I going? What am I doing? And I had to stop doing drugs and alcohol. I had to stop hanging out with my friends that were going out all the time. I had to stop going to the club. And I just cut those things out from my life, which was lonely and painful at first, right? I'm good. A lot of people are like, well, how lonely is it during that period of time? Extremely lonely, you know? Like, there was a year and a half in which I didn't talk to a girl. I didn't really hang out with anyone. I got a sponsor in AA and a mentor. And all I did was go to bed early, wake up early, watch and learn on YouTube, audiobooks, and regular books, and just focus on building myself. Meditation every day, prayer. I started reading. I started eating healthier, started working out, and just did everything I could to stay sober. And so that desperation that I felt is what spawned into my daily disciplines and my routines. And I wasn't perfect at first. It's not like all of a sudden I went from a complete degenerate to the optimal routine and person you see today. This was little by little. First, it was like just staying sober and starting to work on my mind. And then I started adding in a little better eating. And then I started adding in exercise. Then I started adding in meditation. Then I started adding in reading. And so whenever I work with people, I always tell them, like, guys, we're just going to do two things. We're going to subtract your vices, and then we're going to build small, systematic, sustainable habits. Because everybody makes this mistake, right? Oh, I'm going to go from a 9 a.m. wake up to a 5 a.m. wake up with a new 17-step morning routine. It's like, yeah, how many days are you going to do that? 3? Maybe if you have some resiliency, you'll do it for 2 weeks, and then you're going to quit. And then you're going to be like, this didn't work. That's not how I make changes in people's lives, and it's not how it worked for me.
It's just like when you go to the gym, it's like, you're not going to just pick up the 100-pound dumbbells and just press that. Like, you're going to start small, and then you're just going to slowly but surely like work up the weight count. It's like it's a muscle.
It's a muscle, right? Yeah. And your mind is going to change just like your body changes, okay? And when you stop priming or working out your mind on a daily basis, you will lose that muscle, right? Like if I stopped meditating and praying and reading every day, within a month, I'm going to
give him too
have
much
anxiety.
foreshadowing here.
I'm going to be less focused. I might think that the puff bar is a good option again, right? I might start doing things that I don't want to do. Same way with working out, right? Like I'm going to lose my physique if I don't use it. And so priming your mind, your body, and your spirit each and every day, for me, made the most massive, monumental changes in my life.
And I would ask, kind of pulling in two different things here. One, a bit that we had from Colin last week. He mentioned to me that you got baptized pretty recently, which wonderful. I'm very happy for you.
Thanks.
Congratulations, if that's what you say
to
that. But that, and then you sharing your story of that day that you hit rock bottom. And I know I've heard you say it a couple times, but you woke up with this idea of like, I'm going to go kill that person that did this to me.
Yeah.
And it was really like the pinnacle, or I guess like the trench, the bottom of this moment where you really had your inflection point. And you met a gentleman, I forget who he was or if he was significant to you, but he was some type of messenger, some type of divine being saying, hey man, that person is not your enemy. That person saved you. That person took you low enough that and Colin said this on the podcast last week. He said, at some point, it becomes more uncomfortable to continue to do what you're doing than it is to change.
Exactly.
And that is that moment where you're like, either it just keeps getting worse and it's gonna be horrible, or I at least try and it's gonna be horrible, but it's gonna be horrible either way.
Yep.
I might as well make it horrible on the upswing. And I'm curious, how foundational has your faith been in this transformation that you've undergone? And has that been kind of a quiet whisper in the background for a while and the voice has slowly grown louder? That's what my personal experience has been with my relationship with God. And I know more and more people that I talk to, especially people who have really found a purpose, found success, it oftentimes feels that way. And I'm curious if your experience has been the same.
Yeah, I would not be where I am today without God. Not even close. Okay, when you begin in a program of Alcoholics Anonymous, the entire point of the program is to do the 12 steps with a sponsor so that you can clear out all your past wreckage, karma, and reduce your ego and character defects so that you can form a relationship with God. Oh, wow. That's the entire point of the program. And as an alcoholic or an addict, I don't have a problem with drugs and alcohol. I have a problem with my mind. And the only way that I can stay sober is to consistently have a relationship with God, okay? It says in the literature, I only have a daily reprieve from drugs and alcohol so long as I maintain my spiritual condition. And that has been my experience, right? That I tried to do AA and to get sober without creating a relationship with God. I did it for 10 years, right? Or 8 years, right? From like 22 when I got court mandated to almost 30. I bounced in and out of AA. I never got a sponsor. I never did the 12 steps, and I never formed a real relationship with God. And I would always go back out and rely on my own will and my own ego. When I decided to relinquish self-control and admit that I didn't know everything and my life was unmanageable and that only a power greater than me could help me make a psychic change, then my life started to grow. And it's not as if I became some born-again Christian that knew Jesus Christ right away. It took me a while along my journey to get closer to God, right? Like I believed in God, and then I formed this relation through AA, and then I would watch some like YouTubes on prayer and some of these big churches on YouTube. But it wasn't until about, well, maybe 6 months after I met Colin, or a year, where we started to going to VU regularly. And then my faith really increased, and I realized how much work I had to do. And then over a year period of time of going to church every day and seeking more spiritual development and talking with Colin and Jason Colombi and a lot of these guys who were very spiritual, I said, wow, the next step is I have to give my life to Christ. Like I was baptized as a kid, but I didn't make that choice, right? And so I realized, it became so clear to me that I still had a lot of work to do. And until I gave my life to Jesus Christ, that I wouldn't overcome some of my issues. And yes, I've been able to overcome drugs and alcohol and most of my vices, but I really struggle with women, right? I really have had such a difficult time, and I know it's because I'm not as spiritually aligned as I should be. And when I got baptized, the craziest things happened. Dude, I still cannot believe how rapidly my life has transformed since the day I made the decision and got baptized. I struggle to listen to the same music that I once did. I can't even entertain the same kind of girls that I once did. I can't even talk to a girl if she doesn't share all the same values and have God in her life. I'm not even swearing as much in my content anymore. It's insane how much this has changed. Not to mention, these people were put into my life after I got baptized that I would have never imagined. And even people from my past that at one point I mentored and struggled and came back and said, hey, let's create a Bible study together. Let's, get more involved in the church. And so it has been a slow evolving process, but without God, without Jesus Christ, I would never be here today. That's how my whole life got saved.
Yeah, I love that you're able to understand that it's not just the obvious vices, right? It's so easy to say, well, I quit the drugs, I quit the alcohol, my life is on an upswing. There's nothing wrong with having fun. There's nothing wrong with, having multiple relationships, or, I don't have a problem with women. I don't have a problem with XYZ thing. That thing isn't inherently bad for me. But when you can really look at it in the context of your soul and who you are as a person, you might find that while women, let's say for an example, aren't a bad thing, women aren't a drug, they're not an inherently destructive thing, but they could become a tool for destruction or distraction,
right?
If not just traversed properly through your life. And I know, funny enough, one of the first conversations that we had when we got that first workout in together at Boxer, you said it to me in a little bit of a joking way, but there was a serious undertone to it. You're like, really one of the things that I struggle with is I almost have it too easy with women. Yeah. Like I'm somebody who I have a very good foundation. I don't drink, I don't party, I'm not going out all the time. Like I have a very attractive just aura or presence to women, and that begets my addiction, my desire with them in a way that really isn't healthy for me.
It's so funny. I never wanted to talk about it because I never wanted to come off cocky and seem like, oh, this kid, like talking about how good he is with girls. But it's a serious thing, right? It's been, and I always have a lot of my clients look at this is, what are your assets and what are your defects? And a lot of times people's assets also have another side that can turn into a defect. And sometimes people's defects can actually turn into an asset, right? Like if you're a super impatient person, well, maybe that's good. Maybe that means you can move projects forward if you can harness that impatience, right? If you find yourself constantly judging other people, maybe you can take that and turn that into looking at yourself, right? But also my asset of being so persuasive and having such an aura and so much confidence and swagger and charisma, it has made it very difficult not to entertain conversations that I probably could step away from, right? It's like it became this very fun game. And so you got to look at everything that's holding you back from the life that you want to live. I even, at one point, it's like, hey, I used to take an hour bath every day, right? It sounds ridiculous, but that was definitely holding me back from being as productive as I could have been. I don't need to take an hour bath. Why don't I just take a 5-minute shower, right? And so looking at every single little vice and how it's holding you back from the life that you could live is an imperative process.
Are you someone that would see yourself like having a family in
Totally.
the next 10 years?
And I want... I'll be 38 this summer. I would love to, within the next few years, have a serious girlfriend and call it by like 42, be on the path to having kids.
Nice.
I love that. And I think going back to something you said earlier and really tying it in here, there is no timeline for when something is right. The timeline is when you're ready for it, when you're willing to step up to the challenge, when you've gotten to a place of self-mastery or discipline that you feel equipped to take on whatever that next chapter is. And, in the same way that you really ventured out into personal branding and starting your own businesses and doing things like that, you said, not until you were 30, in your 30s. So many people, especially now in the world of online entrepreneurs, like I was with a guy last night who just exited his first company for like $1.2 million. He's 19 years old. Wow. Like he started this company when he was 16.
Wow.
Right. The only thing I cared about at 16 years old was like, getting to drive my dad's car, like, stupid stuff like that. Totally. So it is crazy. But then being able to step back and say, that's his timeline. My timeline is this one.
Right.
And there's no life better than the one that you're living because it's the only one that you've got.
Absolutely.
And I'm someone, I am so blessed. Again, shout out my beautiful wife, Emily. This is going to be a common theme on every episode, I'm sure. But I found the right person very young. I'm married already, coming up on our 1-year anniversary here shortly. And we're looking at, where's the next move? Getting out of Miami, going somewhere a little bit quieter and starting a family. And, while in many aspects, I don't know that I'm ready for it. And a lot of people are telling me like, hey, you're 24, you're gonna be 25. Like, are you ready for a kid? Do you wanna put what else you have going for you to the side and for a family? That's the calling that I feel. And that's the timeline that feels right for me in this moment. And I know that God's got me, right, whatever the situation happens beyond that. And whether that's having 5 kids over the next 10 years, or whether that's having 1 kid at 25 and that's all that's in store for me, only time is gonna tell. But I wanna now kind of take this to your professional development and really how you got started into not just turning your life around, but becoming someone that was exemplary from a physical condition, a mental condition, and then harnessing that and turning it into a business, turning it into your means to earn income and to provide a lifestyle that you want. Was that the vision all along? Was it, hey, I'm gonna turn myself around and then go and sell that? Or was it kind of you figured it out as you got there? Or did you arrive and then say, wait, I figured this out, let me go back now?
I never had any intention of getting online or coaching whatsoever. At the beginning of COVID, I had a financial technologies company and it failed. And I ended up becoming a sales manager at a company called Health Gains, which was a functional medicine company. When I became sales manager, I realized that my leadership ability was not what it should have been, right? That I had very low emotional intelligence, that I had a major temper, that I was a complete dick with the way that I talked to employees. But luckily I had a mentor. And I was honest with him all the time. I would report back to him, I would see him every weekend and I would say, Steve, I kind of lost it on some of my employees this week. I told Mike to just shut his mouth and answer the phone, and I wasn't super nice to this girl. And he was like, okay, well, we need to work on your equanimity. We need to work on your ability to regulate your emotions and then communicate effectively out of logic. So we started inducing a meditation practice each and every day. He had me read some books on leadership. We started doing a little bit of role playing practice. And then he had me do the situation in which he would say, who pisses you off during the day in the business? I want you to project what is going to happen, right? Your operations manager comes in and she bitches about the sales guys overpromising. The sales guys are bitching about the leads. The doctors are bitching that the sales guys are overselling the service, so on and so forth. And he said, I want you to imagine the two ways in which you can react to each person that makes you angry throughout the day. One way that I could react is to say, Mike, shut your mouth and go back and just dial the phone. Or the other could be, hey, Mike, tell me a little bit more about why you feel that way. Let's come up with a solution together. I got you. And I started projecting these situations on my way into work every day. And I started becoming a more and more effective leader. I started to become a little bit more calm. And then I learned how to really effectively lead sales meetings, right? And the way that I started leading sales meetings was I stopped making them do the role play and follow a script. I came in, I said, guys, untuck your shirts, start wearing polos, relax a little. I'm not gonna micromanage you. I'm gonna start to teach you some of the mindsets and the skills that I've learned, and then I'm gonna help you with the process to help you improve. As long as you guys promise me to do everything you can to improve. Deal? They're like, okay, awesome. So I started doing guided meditations with them. I gave them all the book Mindset by Carol Dweck, which talked about having a growth mindset.
Fantastic
I
read.
told them, guys, when I give you feedback, I am not attacking your personality. I am giving you feedback on an action that you took, which is something that you can change. And I'm giving you the feedback so we can work on it together so that you can achieve the goals you want to achieve. And then I sat down with all of them. Mike, Ham, Peter, what are your goals? And I wanted to know their 1, 3, 5 year personal, professional, financial goals. So as a result of doing this, I started personally developing and personally caring for every employee that I had. And then when I got to 10X, we took that to the next level. We did the goal setting, and then we weaved in an employee maturity model and showed them how they could move up in the business. And then all of our incentives and all of our metrics were based off of their personal goals. And then I would also be like, guys, what are you doing for your workouts? What are you doing for nutrition? What are you doing for your mind? Right? And when people would come into work all, in a state where they weren't ready for work, I'd be like, hey man, what's going on today? Like, did you hit your morning routine this morning? And what I noticed is that me caring about their personal optimization created this unbelievable culture within the business, right? And so I did this at Health Gains, and I did this at 10X. And Health Gains, we went from 4 million to 12 million, and 10X, 9 million to 50 million. We went from 65 to 300 employees, not a single person left in a year, 0 employee turnover. And so I said, hey, I know I have something special here. Like, I'm really good at developing individuals, but I still didn't know that I wanted to coach.
Was it Wes Watson?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I started a healthcare consultancy, and for a year I made supplements for 10X, for a bunch of other celebrities, and I was just doing healthcare consulting. And I actually got bored out of my mind because I was really good at it, and I was like writing maybe a couple emails per day, and I actually started feeling very unfulfilled. So I went back to my mentor and he said, okay, let's go back to the drawing board. And he said, hey, you got to really start to dig in with prayer and meditation and put into the atmosphere, what is your purpose? What are you supposed to be doing for work? What are your goals? And ask God each and every day. So I did this. And for 2 months, I didn't get any answer, any inspiration. Nothing changed, right? And I'm like, man, nothing is changing. And I was taking all the right actions to try and align myself with what I thought might be some options. Well, long story short, I get on a boat and I meet Wes Watson. I didn't know who the guy was. I'd never met him before. I didn't even know online coaching exists. At that point in my life, my Instagram page was a couple sunset pictures and surfing, right? I had 3,000 followers and it was just a personal account.
Yep.
So I meet Wes.
What year is this, by the way?
What's that?
What year is this?
This was April of 2023.
Oh, so recently.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
I did not
Holy
realize
shit.
it was so recent.
Yeah.
Holy cow. Okay, yeah, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry, May of 2023. Okay, so May of 2023, I meet him on the boat. And at the time, I had just made all the supplements for 10X. And so I had created a supplement manufacturing company. I could create supplements head to toe for anybody, from like the idea of the brand all the way through the logistics and fulfillment and e-com, everything.
Shout out D1 supplements.
Yeah, exactly.
I take those every day.
Nice.
So, yeah.
I love it. And so I meet him on the boat and I said, what do you do, man? He said, I coach online. I said, through what platform? He said, Instagram. I said, okay, I'll look him up on Instagram. I'm like, oh man, 1 million, almost 1 million followers and like huge brands. This guy's loaded, sick whips and everything. I'm like, nice. And then he asked me what I did and I told him, ex-president of 10X Health, this and that. Someone on the boat had already told him, so he kind of knew. And I told him my backstory, and he's like, damn, dude, that's crazy. Like drug addiction and all this stuff, you pulled yourself out. And he said, why aren't you coaching online? And I was like, I never thought about it, man. I never knew until now, but I don't want to take selfie videos. And he goes, you don't want to take selfie videos? He's like, if I could show you a way to make 1/8 of what I make, would you consider doing this? And I was like, man, I'm not really sure, maybe. And I said, but dude, I could create supplements for you. I could create Wes Watson supplements, and we could add like $2 million a year to your bottom line. And he goes, bro, I make more than $2 million a month. And I was like, really? Doing the coaching? You made more than $24 million last year? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, okay, well, what does this like coaching entail? And so he told me real quick. And I said, yeah, all right, man. But I don't want to be judged. Like I still don't know if I really want to like get online and make people feel weird. And he just looks at me and he goes, you selfish fuck. And he goes, do you really think that you've been through everything you've been through and overcome all these challenges to stay quiet? And I was like, oh. And dude, it was at that moment again that I felt the presence of God being like, this is your sign. Like you got to do it. You know, and so I was like, all right, man, send me the link. Let's just get going. You know, I didn't even ask him any questions.
You joined his program.
I joined his program, yeah. So he taught me how to get online. You know, he gave me the structure. I did that for 3 months, paid him $7,500, did 3 months of his coaching, and he gave me everything that I needed, right? I mean, I was already a pretty high-level guy, so I know sales and I've run companies, but he gave me the structure and the foundation and the perspective that I needed. I did $78K in my first 3 months off that $7,500 investment. Wow. And when I opened my program on Instagram, I had 12 people reach out to me immediately within the first week and say, we've been waiting for this. Wow. And so that's when I knew that all of my personal development of people and business owners and all my past connections and these people saying we've been waiting for this, that I had built up so much goodwill and I had actually already been giving people advice and helping them, that this is what I was supposed to be doing. And I sucked at it at first. I wasn't good at making content. It was very difficult, and it was a major blow to my ego. To go from the golden boy, president of 10X Health, could do no wrong, working with celebrities, scaling this company massive, everyone loved me, to talking to a little green dot and trying to figure out how to make content, I sucked at it.
Yeah.
But I just never gave up, and that's why I'm here today, because I just kept going.
So did you just go all in on that, or did you still work at 10X?
Okay, so I had the healthcare consultancy at that time.
Yep.
So May is when I met Wes. We started, the first call was in June, and then July 1st, I started creating content, but I still had my healthcare consultancy. Okay. So for those first 6 months, I was still running my healthcare consultancy. And when you're creating content online and running a business, you're not fully in, because your mind during the day is focused on, how do I increase revenue in this healthcare company? How do I help them with their sales and marketing funnel? I'm thinking about that all day. I'm not thinking about mindset and personal development. Yeah. And so my content wasn't amazing in the beginning, but I still just never missed. I never had less than 10 stories a day. I never missed a reel. I just did it.
Yeah.
And things went crazy. With 3,000 followers, I did 30K net my very first month. Wow. I had one down month, but it was like from 30 to 42 to like 57, back down to 40, but then ended up like 70, 83, 117 within 6 months. And when I hit 100K by myself, no ads, no setter, no closer, no sales calls, just me closing organic content in the DMs. And I was only at like 15K followers. I was like, all right, I'm done with healthcare consulting. Like, I love you guys, but I'm going all in on coaching.
Yeah.
When you were doing that, when did you meet Colin?
I met Colin end of August. Our first workout was September of 2023.
Okay, so right around that time.
Yeah, he had just gotten back from his Euro summer. Okay, yeah, he had, so early September is when we met. And that was another crazy experience because we met and his journey was so aligned with mine. He had, 5 years ago been kidnapped basically and drugged, and then he found God and started his personal development journey. And I knew who he was already because he had created a YouTube with Gary that I used to watch all the time. I watched that video. Right? It was one of the best YouTubes about 10X. 100%. And I'm like, this kid is fire, bro. I don't even know what he does. I couldn't tell. I'm like, is he a crypto guy or a health guy?
They did the 4 corners.
Right. I didn't know exactly what he did. I'm like, but he's a G. So he joined Wes's program as well. And when I started in Wes's program, he would, on the group calls, he would always say, like, guys, if you're struggling to follow the blueprint, just go watch Wade, right? Because I just never missed. And every group call, I was like sharing my wins of like, bro, yeah, I went from 30 to 40 to 50, month 3, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or month 4, whatever it was. And Colin's like, all right, we got a link. Let's go get a workout in. So we did, and we just became like instant best friends from there.
Love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the ego here is the thing that sticks out to me, because when it comes to just stepping outside of the norm, it is like, honestly, the hardest part is that it's in public. It's that it's in the limelight. And you traverse this weird boundary, this weird midline of like, well, I'm making content that nobody sees, which is embarrassing. But then you're like, but nobody sees it, so it's really not that embarrassing.
Right.
And that was the one thing that I told myself when I made the same transition, right? For the longest time after John and I started working together, right, I was running my own home service businesses. Businesses were doing well, growing. I'm making more money. I'm making more money. Now I'm helping him with fulfillment. We're training people. We're starting more locations. And finally, he's like, you got to start posting on social media.
Yeah.
You got to start growing your personal brand. Like, that is going to be the best way for us to help more people get started with this.
That's it.
And I was just like, I don't know, man. My aunt and uncle follow me. My buddies from when I played soccer followed me. All my home friends. And then you post that first piece of content and you stare at it and you watch and you're like, oh God, people are seeing it. Oh, just got liked by this person. And you're like, and then you post the 5th one and you just check and you're like, oh yeah. Then you post the 500th one. You don't even think about it. And as soon as I had a proof of concept, as soon as I was like, wow, this is a lever that I can use to just turn the gas all the way up, it was intoxicating. It was just like, this is it. You know, we struck gold. And I think, being honest with you, I had no idea that you had only started jumping into this like 2 years ago. Like, you create content like a veteran. You know, you've just like you've been doing this forever. And it just makes sense because, like you said, you don't miss. You get 10 pieces out a day. You've gotten 10 years of repetitions in 2 years.
Yeah.
Which has cemented you so quickly in the space. And I think now going into what you're doing in this moment, everything for you is just about leveraging the skill set that you've always had. And I cherish and respect that so much, because I feel that right now, info in general, people who have any type of coaching or mentorship product, it's getting looked down upon really, really badly.
Yeah.
You know, we're getting to the point now where it's like, oh, you know, course detected, opinion rejected, right? Like that's the idea here, is like, oh, if you're trying to sell me something, you're a grifter. You don't know anything. And I love that the foundation of what it is that you're doing is built upon not just solid information, but real lived experience. And that's always what I've tried to build my empire on is, hey, I know this because I've done it. I'm not repackaging information. I'm not selling you something that you can get on YouTube. This is from my brain to you. And that has been your MO the entire way. Now, as you've been building these out, you know, I know you've got 3 kind of entities right now. Do you want to give me a little bit more context and for the listener, a little bit more context? What are your 3 things that you're doing right now? And what has been the driving factor behind having 3 things and not just going all into one and you know, wanting to split them off and share your expertise in 3 different ways?
One thing I actually really struggled with when I got online was niching down into a specific offer, because I've had a very dynamic past, right? And I've solved a lot of issues for myself. And what Wes helped me do initially was, hey, don't focus so much on a specific offer. I want you just to create a group program and a one-on-one program. And the people who join can get your time in a group setting or a one-on-one setting, and you can help them with anything that you've learned and improved upon. And I had learned and improved a lot, right? I had gotten off of drugs. I had solved an autoimmune disorder. I had improved my nutrition, my overall health. I had changed my physique. I had changed my emotional intelligence. I had become an effective leader. I had scaled businesses. I had done all these things through my experience. And so I started helping people with, two different things. Well, you reach a point in which you can only scale so much when you're doing one-on-one. And so I actually went into a point where I was teaching people how to create a personal brand and coach online. And what I actually realized is many of the people that signed up for that program had no reason to help other people. They hadn't even mastered themselves, right? They had no place to coach other people. And this is part of the problem with the industry. It's like you have all these people with zero life experience, with zero self-mastery, trying to better themselves and coach other people at the same time, but they have no place leading people, right? And I was like, man, I actually don't even like this. I don't want to do this. And also, I have such an incredibly unique way of communicating on social media. I can't even reteach this. And so I went back to the drawing board and said, hey, look, what can I actually not live without? And what problems have I solved for myself that have created the life that I live today, right? So my group program, my foundational program focuses on helping someone create an optimal mindset, an awesome physique, and a spiritual connection. Because that's the foundation for me each and every day that created a person that can handle problems and get through life and really start to move up. And so that's where everyone starts building that foundation. My next program is teaching people influence, how to persuade, how to communicate, how to sell, because this foundation is what has helped me not only close more clients and be a great salesperson, but become an effective leader and manage people and create real lasting connections and improve my network and persuade everyone with whom I meet to just make my life generally easier. And I'm really good at it. And I'm really good at teaching that as well. And not in a slimy way, but in a genuine way. I have genuine curiosity for other people. My next program is what I learned from my mentor, which is actually how to scale a business, how to put systems and structures into place, how to create a flywheel within a business so that it's not a typical funnel, right? How to create sales, marketing, operations, and then a referral program to make this beautiful flywheel within the company, and also really have the proper incentives and structures for employees so that the company can scale, and how to detail the vision and everything that goes along with scaling companies. So those are my three programs because those are the things that I actually experienced and that actually helped me. And when I have that alignment, I'm not selling anything at all. I'm just literally talking about my experience. And if people want help with this, solving the same problems that I solved, they join my program, and it's that easy. Beautiful.
I think the whole crux of that thing is you've built this on real experience, and you're like, hey, I'm not selling something. I didn't create a course. I didn't create information. I'm just putting my experience into words.
Right.
I'm just making it digestible for someone else. And I know, I saw you doing the personal brand scaling and like teaching people how to do that and teach people how to grow an online coaching business. And I always wondered the same thing. It's actually very nice to hear it from you, because I always wondered myself, how many people have success with this from the standpoint of they have enough value to give
right.
that they can charge a premium price for
exactly.
it. And how many people have the charisma and have the lack of ego and the discipline to build an online audience. Because right. It's not just talk to the phone, press post, make money. Like, you have to have real value. You have to actually cement yourself as an expert, and people have to be excited to work with you.
Right.
Like that's always been our MO in our business. It's like, if I get on a sales call with somebody and they want me to really pitch them, really sell them, I'm not interested in that.
Yep.
Like, you didn't watch the videos beforehand. If I need to re-explain everything or convince you to enroll in this, you won't do well. I don't want that. I want you to come to me and say,
asking about the guarantee policy, like, oh, so like if I fail and
you
have the wrong.
When people ask me that, I immediately say, hey, you're not a great fit for this program.
Exactly.
I still have this program open, but I work with only 7 people right now.
Okay.
Just a select handful. When they come into my funnel, I'll look at their page and I'll ask them questions. And if they have already mastered themselves and they're super excited and energetic and they're capable of helping other people, I'll work with them.
Then it makes sense.
Otherwise, no.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. So I want to get into a little bit more of the secondary shell of Wade Houston, right? So we've really talked about your foundation and who you are. And, I know you have a lot of interests, you have a lot of skills and experience and things, but I want to get into really what your biggest pieces of advice would be for people coming up, even like myself. I'm 10 years behind you now, where I've got hopefully the opportunity to be where you are, be further beyond it 10, 15 years from now. What was the moment in your life where things really clicked for you? I know we've talked about moments where you felt spurred to change, but was there particular moments where, I know you've talked about this supernatural feeling, and for somebody who maybe has never felt that before, for somebody who maybe doesn't have their relationship with God honed in quite right, what was that feeling like, and when were moments when you were like, I'm going in the right direction, I just need to double down, I just need to be patient, work long enough? Because I know in my experience, one of the biggest obstacles that I deal with is, when is it time to cut bait and when is it time to double down?
Right.
It's not always like this. There are those moments where you're here and then you're coming and you're like, is this my stop loss? Do I just get out here before it gets worse? Or are we about to bounce and go higher?
For me, having a mentor was paramount, because there were times when I was managing Health Gains, the company before 10X, where I was thinking to myself, maybe I should leave. Maybe I shouldn't deal with these owners, this husband and wife. Like they're not even, the wife was never appreciative of anything I did, even though we were up 3X month over month, and he was. And so working with a mentor for me was really helpful. But I will say, even if you don't have a relationship with God, start praying, just start asking whatever you can conceive in the universe, whatever higher power. Hey, am I going in the right direction? Please show me what I should be doing. Give me signs, and I think for me, that was really powerful. I didn't have the best relationship with God or what I have today, but I always would be reminded to pray, like, please show me what I should be doing in my life at this time. Now, there's going to be a period of time where you're doing the things that you should be doing where the results don't come, right? And we all know this is, for me, it's like the success gap. Where
Colin said the exact same thing, by the way, verbatim on the last podcast.
Right? It's where most people give up.
Yep.
And this is why a lot of people don't have the success. It's not that they were going in the wrong direction or doing the wrong things. It's that they just gave up too early. And so if you're building your skill set in business each and every day, if you're learning, if you're growing, keep going in that direction. If a new opportunity comes along, you're going to have to put that opportunity through the decision funnel, which is, does this contribute to my long-term goals? And what are the pros and cons of leaving? And what are the pros and cons of staying? So that's how I made every decision. Was I knew what my 1, 3, 5 year personal, professional, financial goals were at all time. And if I were to leave this company or make a decision, was it going to contribute to the goals that I had? Was it even possible? And then from there, again, pros and cons of leaving, pros and cons of staying, and I would make the decision, based off of that. But just because someone doesn't like something or they don't feel like they're getting the results, it doesn't mean you're not growing. In fact, some of the most difficult, challenging times are when you're going to grow the most. And for me, that was when I was scaling this company, Health Gains, before 10X. That's where I learned everything. And there were nights where I was there until 8, 9 o'clock at night, just beating my head against the wall. Like, how do I get more leads? How do I improve this sales process? And there was weeks at a time where I didn't feel like I was making any progress, but I still put in the work each and every day. And eventually those results came. And after months of really working with the sales team and making these changes and getting a new lead provider, all of a sudden sales started going up and up and up. And I noticed this upward trend and I was like, okay, I have something here.
I think the perfect example, it's all those cliche images. It's all the stupid graphic of the guy mining for diamonds. And we can see on the outside that he's one strike of the axe away, one strike of the pick away from getting to the diamonds. And he turns around and he goes back.
Right.
It's so often that we feel like the effort, like the sowing of the seeds, well, they didn't come to harvest. And maybe it's just, you're 2 weeks too early. They just haven't started to sprout yet. If you could hang on one day longer, I think that the message here, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's that it doesn't necessarily have to feel like it's working to still feel right.
Totally.
To still feel like we're taking steps that are getting us closer to the ultimate goal. And I love that the foundation of God and a higher, genuine direction leading you is always what you can fall back on. If you can truly look in the mirror and be like, you know what? Somebody who knows a hell of a lot more than I do, somebody who knows everything, who's all-knowing, wants me to do this, maybe I don't need to understand.
You don't, exactly. A lot of people are trying to understand how, when, and why something is going to work. Not only do you not need to understand any of those things, but you don't even know if the result that you want is the thing that is going to give you the life and the experience that you need. Sometimes getting fired from a job or bottoming out your lead funnel or having a down month is the thing that is going to give you a new perspective so that you can actually take new action and grow. And then when that problem happens again, you can navigate that problem. But without that challenge, you would never be able to future navigate that problem. And so people are always like, no, but I don't have the success yet. It's like, yo, it's for a reason. You know how many times I failed? You know how many times I experienced strife and challenge? And those were the things that built me into the resilient person that I am today that can handle anything.
Yeah, it's all about the development personally, the skill set to solve problems, and just the resolve. Because there's never a right time for a problem. The right time for a problem is never.
Right.
But when you don't get to pick the timing. When the problem comes, you solve it, and then you're better equipped to either avoid or solve it even quicker the next time.
Look, small-minded people have small-minded problems. Right? So you can always tell very quickly by someone's level of enlightenment or achievement when you ask them how things are going and they're like, oh, I got a flat tire today, or the kid shit the bed, or like these small little problems. It's like, you think about those things? Like that's even in your mind? That's never in my mind. No small level problem is going to hold me back from what I need to do. Think about CEOs of Fortune 500 companies. Think about billionaires. Think about founders of massive companies. Do you think they're ever thinking about small level problems? Their ability to walk through problems on a daily basis and maintain an even keel is what has gotten them to that position. So if you want a bigger life, you're going to have to expect bigger problems. And how are you going to handle those bigger problems? Every single day, you got to build your mind, your body, and your spirit so that you're in a position to navigate swiftly.
Absolutely.
I always feel too, like when you're doing the most work, you're making like the least amount of money. And then once you hit that breakthrough, you're working less, like significantly less when you're in the trenches, and the money is just flowing. Like once you hit that breakthrough too.
I absolutely.
Like we experienced that last year.
Yep. It's the work oftentimes lays the groundwork for the success. They don't always come together. And that's okay. You just have to be willing to get through the work to get to the success. There's an analogy that someone shared with me a long time ago, and maybe you've heard it, but you know, it's this idea of like, if I were to give you $1,500 today, and on the way out of here, as we were walking out, $1 fell out of your pocket, you left it behind, you didn't realize it, you got in the car, and you were like, oh, there's only $1,499 in here. Would you be pissed about the dollar that you lost? Or would you be like, well, I got $1,499. So that's totally fine with me. And we could say the same thing with the quality of our day, with the quality of our lives. So many people have a bad minute. They have a bad moment in their day. And as you said, like the small-minded people having small-minded problems, you get cut off in traffic and the rest of your day spirals from there. Right. You're pissed off. You get in the office. You're a jerk to the front desk person. Now they aren't as helpful to you during the day. You're pissed off about that. It spirals. You come home, you're yelling at your significant other because you had a bad day at work, which all started with getting cut off there. You know, that's that 1 minute. That's that $1 in your 1,500 minutes in your day. And you spoiled the whole batch of it over that one single dollar that really meant nothing in the grand scheme of things. And it's so easy.
You ever go into a convenience store or somewhere with a front desk worker and you're like, hey, how's your day going? And they're like, oh,
yes,
fine.
Yes.
Okay. I'm just sitting there thinking to myself, how? How is this your level of concern, right? And then I remember, oh yeah, you just haven't elevated out of that mindset.
Yeah.
To be in a position where your day is not going amazing is insane to me.
Yeah.
Because you're letting your external environment dictate how you feel. And I just can't process or understand that level of thinking because it doesn't matter what's going on in my life or how difficult it is. I've regulated myself on a daily basis. And since I have that mindset, nothing can stop me from having an amazing day. Do I still have maybe once in a while a moment of reflection or sadness or depression or anger? Of course, but I can flip the switch so quickly and move out of that back to what an amazing life I have. How can we progress and move forward?
And you can process the emotion as a tool, not as a weight. That is the problem. When emotion becomes something that bogs you down as opposed to, I feel sadness right now and I understand why I feel it and it's okay that I feel it. Sadness is an emotion. It's a tool just like anything else is. Same thing with anxiety, same thing with, fear. Any of these emotions that we view so negatively only become negative when they bog you down, when they overwhelm you as opposed to understanding the root cause and moving forward.
This is probably one of the biggest keys in all of my teachings. When people start, they think, oh, I'm having this emotion and it's ruining my day or ruining my life. And they think, well, I just want to be happy all the time. No, you don't. That's not the point of life. You will never be happy all the time. For if you were happy all the time, it would diminish your joy and your level of happiness would come down to the point of boredom and you wouldn't even enjoy your life anymore. Life is an array of emotions. You're going to be sad. You're going to be elated. You're going to be angry. When you can understand that it's okay to have those emotions and let those emotions pass or observe why they came from the beginning and return back to center, you then become useful and you can actually elevate your life.
Yeah.
That's the whole key.
I love that. I
So
love
like
that.
the mindset that you have, like what are your daily non-negotiables that you do and then not do on a day-to-day basis to be able to sustain that?
Yeah, every day I pray, meditate, I hydrate with the electrolyte salts before I go to any coffee or food. I read a page in a daily motivating book, and then I have a cup of coffee. I eat breakfast, go to the gym every day.
Boom.
And then right now, 5 days a week, I take a walk. And then the other 2, I'll get some tennis or some other cardio in. But I'm always doing some form of light cardio as well. And that's it. It's a very simple daily non-negotiable.
And that's the foundation for your day. You're like, how can I lose after this, right? My body is nourished properly. My mind is nourished properly. I've gotten fresh air, gotten exercise. I'm hydrated. I'm ready to go. And it can be so simple. It doesn't have to be red light mask on, cold plunge, 17 burpees on the balcony by 4 a.m. Like it doesn't, it just has to be something that you can commit to. And it's a benchmark for your personal accountability.
Totally.
Because you can now look yourself in the mirror at 10 a.m. or whatever time all this wraps up, and you can say, all right, I won the morning.
Right.
How much easier is it to win the day after that?
Dude, we always say this. If you can just hit your daily non-negotiables in the morning, we'll just say prayer, meditation, go to the gym, and eat something healthy. Literally 4-step morning routine, nothing difficult at all. It becomes very hard to fuck up your day from there.
Yeah.
Like you have to really try to fuck up your day after you hit that every single day.
Yeah. How can you?
Yeah.
Because the only thing that you could fuck up from there is the stuff that you need to do, you choose not to do it. But once you've built the momentum, why would you choose not to do it?
Right.
And that's the whole point. It's like 10 a.m. comes, the last thing I want to do now is crawl back into bed and eat junk food and blah, blah. No, I'm winning already.
Exactly.
I just keep it rolling from there. And that is really so actionable. And I think one of the last things I want to get from you, I've been doing some math in my head here, right? And if you posted 10 pieces of content, let's say, or more every day for about 2 years now. May of 2023 or June of 2023, we're at June of 2025 in a couple days here. We're looking at you've posted somewhere in the ballpark of 10,000 pieces of content,
Easily.
right?
Yeah.
If you've made 10,000 pieces of content, what's the one? Somebody who just met you today is watching you for the very first time. What's the 60-second or the 30-second piece of content where you're like, this is the only thing you need to hear from me to start making a change in your life, to start approaching that 1% that you have spent years, a decade getting yourself into?
Fear and ego are by far the biggest thing that hold anybody back. Fear is a projected future state that will likely never occur, and that projected future state, even if it's not favorable in your mind, might be the thing that helps you develop into the person that becomes successful. Letting your ego hold you back from taking the actions and being worried about being judged or failing is also one of the biggest things that's holding you back. So what someone should do is identify the actions that are healthy and positive and take them every day, regardless of how they feel, regardless of their worry of being judged, or regardless of their fear. And when you consistently take those actions each and every day, you will grow. You don't need to know how or when or why. You remain present in the moment, and eventually on God's timetable, you will experience the person who is worth the life that you want to live.
Yeah, that's how you started with Wes Watson. You feared posting on Instagram.
That's it.
And you
Just
got
have
over
to
that
walk through your fear.
embarrassment.
Everybody's going to be a beginner. It doesn't matter how accomplished you are. I was the president of 10X Health, and I had already scaled from 9 million to 50 million, but I was starting over again. And the first piece of content that I posted, my ex-girlfriend messaged me and said, "This is not for you."
Oh, wow.
First message that I got after posting a story.
And that could have been it.
"This is not for you." And I just thought to myself, man, maybe she's right. And then I said, nah, fuck that.
Fuck that.
I'm doing it anyway.
I love it.
Right? That, and walking through that fear. And then what happened? Within 2 days, 3 days, people reaching out to me, we've been waiting for this. And so once you stop worrying about being judged, once you stop worrying about looking stupid, once you stop worrying about failure and you reframe to how can I help other people regardless of how I'm viewed, that shift in perspective will help you have a positive impact and live the life that you want to live.
It's almost the willingness to fake it until you make it. You're basically saying, if you can act like the person that you want to be for long enough, you'll become that person.
Right.
And that is actually a beautifully simple way to do it. Take someone that you have on a pedestal for whatever reason. They're in the shape that you want to be in. They have a relationship that you envy. They have a financial status that you envy. Do one thing that they would do every day. Then do two. Then do three. Then stop doing something that they wouldn't do. And surely enough, if you can build enough evidence for yourself, for the outside world, that you aren't so different from this person that you're emulating, you transition into being like enough to that person that you can have a similar result.
It's so easy nowadays to become somebody with massive success because it's modeled online everywhere. And what people miss is they'll look at just the successful person, the flashy car, the flashy life, the hot girl, and they'll go after that person, where instead, look at the person who, yes, has material results that you want, but speaks about business and relationships and mindset and has the health or relationships, connections that you want. And when you find that person, just do what they do. We show online and we talk about this each and every day. Yeah. But what people will do is, even people that join my program, this blows my mind. I'll set them up a program and they'll say to me, but why am I doing it this way? Don't you think that that is going to be hard to do? Or don't you think that that's the wrong thing to do? That mindset is so incredibly weak and limited. It is insane. That is the definition of a fixed mindset. You think that you know better than the person that you paid that has massive results and transformation and shows it every day and has literally helped thousands of people. you have to change that mindset.
They haven't even tried to do.
They haven't even tried it.
Yeah.
It's insane. It blows my mind when people are like, well, I need to know how this is going to work. You don't even know what you're about to learn until you take the action. And even if I told you how it's going to work in your current state of mind, you wouldn't be able to grasp it. You do the work that people who have been successful tell you to do, and eventually you will have results. Yeah. Simple.
You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And you know what? As much as I want to bash on these people, I have been this person.
Yeah, right.
Admittedly so. Like, I mean, there have been moments where, actually, I can think of one really very readily available. We paid for some third-party consulting. We paid $10,000 for 4 calls, right? So we're talking these are the most expensive hours I've ever paid for personally. And we get on the call with this person who's helping us with our funnels, our sales processes, things like that. And the guy is reviewing one of my calls. And he says, Parker, you shouldn't have said that here because, and I cut him off and I said, no, but you don't understand. I said this because you don't have the full picture. You don't know it as well as I do. I just wasted a minute that I paid $40 for that 1 minute of this guy's time so that I could tell him that I knew better than he knew. Like, what an insane idea that we can recognize how little we know and how much we need someone else's help, yet still step on their toes and get in front of them and step on our own toes because our ego and our pride is just so ingrained into who we are that we think, I want to pay you to tell me that I'm already doing it right.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I want.
Exactly.
Right.
I will say he was quick to the invoice. He got the points.
I paid right away. Yeah. Right. The Stripe link came through. I'm like, pay him, get on the first call. I'm ready to go. This guy's going to tell me that I'm already the man and I just need to tweak these things. And he's like, you're not the man. I'm not. You must be confused because I'm the man. No, you're not. And it was wonderful. It was very much worth the money that we spent on it. And investment, it really is the best, or education is the best investment that we can make. And I know you know that. I think the last thing that I want to cover on this before we wrap up here, and we'll have to do a 6-month update because I'd love to hear how, everything progresses for you as you're venturing in, because this new, 1% influence protocol that you're offering and program that you're offering it's something, I don't even know how many people you have enrolled in it yet, if any, because it's such a new thing. But if somebody is sitting on the sideline right now, and I know we've said to them now, the first thing that they can do is go find the positive habits, the things that they already have developed, and nurture them. If someone is really sitting here and they're at the bottom, they're at 0, they're like, I don't even know what positive habits, what redeeming quality I can find within myself. Where does that person start?
Very simply, the first thing that they should do is pick a wake-up time, preferably before the sun comes up. Let's call it 6 a.m. and say, hey, 7 days a week, regardless of how I feel, where I am, I'm going to get my first win of the day by not hitting snooze or going straight to Instagram or TikTok, and I'm going to wake up at this time. Let's call it 6 a.m. Then the next thing I'm going to do before I go to my phone is I'm going to pray. And if they're not spiritual, then go straight to a page in a book. For $15, you can get a book called Art of Living or 177 Mental Toughness Secrets. Read 1 page every morning. And if you don't know how to meditate yet, go on a 15, 20-minute walk. Okay, so wake up at the exact same time, read a page in a book, go for a 20-minute walk. Then from there, you're going to have to work out. You're going to have to do some form of workout every day. Luckily, you have ChatGPT, and if you don't, have the paid version, just go on YouTube, right? There's a lot of free resources to do something. Where mentorship is helpful and having a program is helpful is saying, okay, well, here's the goals that you have. Here's a custom workout plan. Here's a custom nutrition plan. But for someone that's at rock bottom, just wake up at the same time, read a page in a book, go on a walk, do some form of exercise, and start to eat healthier. No fried foods, no processed foods. Try and eat organic whole foods. And for everyone like, hey, that's super expensive. Chicken Kitchen is $14 for a bunch of chicken and rice and beans. You can eat like super cheap at a lot of places.
Do you still Wim Hof?
No, I don't do breath work as part of my morning routine, but I love doing breath work. I'll do it a couple times a week, but not as part of my morning routine.
Beautiful. I think the last thing that I want to leave the viewers, the audience with is that even if you don't feel that something, a particular nugget or kernel of advice or information is custom tailored towards you, there's value in everything. There's value in bad advice even. Even somebody who steers you in the wrong direction may give you more clarity towards what it is that you actually want. And if there is one, truth, one central truth, whether you believe in a higher power or not, whether you believe in an almighty God or not, your life is bigger than where you currently are in this moment. And you may not have a exact roadmap to get out. The advice that I shared today may not be your saving grace. What Wade said, what John said, may not be the end all be all for you. But even if it can just inspire you to take a baby step, to make 1% closer towards what it is that you want, it's momentum. And momentum can be an extremely powerful thing. A good friend of mine told me something as a joke a long time ago, and he said, it's tough to fight a man who's already on the ground because that uppercut comes with a lot more force from down that low. And it was a really stupid thing in the moment when he said it, but I think it's a beautiful thing to take with you. If you are low, if you're coming from down at the bottom, you can get a lot of speed on the way up to where your goals are and the people that you're trying to surpass. So, guys, if you want to learn more about any of Wade's protocols or programs, any of the 1% programs that he has available, whether that's for business, for sales and influence, or for your personal and physical development. I'm going to be tagging Wade, obviously, in this video. We'll have a link for him and any information that he wants to share in the description. Wade, do you have any closing thoughts? Do you have any final words for the viewers? Something to leave an impression of you with them as they, maybe look to take a step forward in their life?
Get out of the outcome game. A lot of people are so concerned with their results and the material items that they gather or the girl that they get or where they live. Stop thinking that way. Focus each and every day on who is the person that I need to become to live the life that I desire. What mindset do I need? What skill set do I need? What ability to handle problems do I need? And, how can I limit and reduce my ego and help other people? And if you can just focus on those things, the life that you want to live will become before you ever thought it possible.
Wow. That's amazing. There's nothing to say besides exactly that. Get out of the outcome game. That is fantastic, man. Wade, I want to thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thanks for having me.
Straight value. And I love just hearing your perspective on everything and getting to share a platform with you that hopefully can really inspire and change the lives of even just one person, because that's all we're here for. We're not here for influence. We're here for impact and for change. So appreciate your time, guys. If you enjoyed the episode, make sure you smash the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave a comment if you have a question for myself, for John, for Wade. Like I said, as always, there will be links in the description for any relevant information about myself, about Wade, our programs, anything that you may be interested in learning more about. And until next time, I will see you in the next episode.